live now. Jeremy Lee in the building and every guest that you ever needed. Sports cards after hours, keep the hobby heated. Updates, hobby talk like you never seen it. Sports cards live and none could ever beat it. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Sports cards and we live now. Welcome to another episode of Sports Cards Live with your host, Jeremy Lee.
All right, here we go, everybody. Welcome to episode number 144 of Sports Cards Live. It is Saturday night, June the 11th, 2022, and my name is Jeremy Lee. I would like to thank Mark, Michael, and Matthew Cook, co-founders of TAG, for joining us last Tuesday for episode number 2 of this Reveal series. Tomorrow on Collectible Live, my guest will be Tony Giese, Consignment Director at Heritage Auctions, and we will be going live tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. On Thursday, Adam Gray and Jesse Craig, both of PWCC, will join me for the PWCC June premiere auction extended bidding coverage. Always a very fun show. Be sure to join us. And next Saturday will be episode number 4 of the TAG Reveal, and they will be unveiling their automated grading system. You certainly do not want to miss that. I would like to shout out the Center Stage app. Download their app for in-store. Download their app in the App Store for quick comps, whether you are strolling through card shows or pricing your cards if you are a vendor. The app is continuously improving, so please join me in supporting these hobbypreneurs as they endeavor to make the hobby better than it already is. Also, shout out to channel sponsor Pristine Auction. PristineAuction.com is one of the most trusted sports memorabilia and collectibles auction sites. Auctions on PristineAuction.com start at just $1 each day, and there are thousands of autographed items available. They also sell thousands of sports cards, starting with no reserves in their weekly sports card auction, which runs from Sunday to Sunday and has everything from vintage to ultra modern, including raw and graded singles and wax. Head over to pristineauction.com and use code SCL for Sports Cards Live when you register to get $10 off of your first purchase. And shout out to the hobby's middleman service, TradeSafe, your risk-free alternative for trades and buy-sells from any peer-to-peer social media platform or marketplace. TradeSafe has created a team, a process, and a service that makes remote dealing much safer than ever before. It is now fully digital, and the website just completely relaunched yesterday, is easier to use than ever before. Check out tradesafehub.com. I want to thank all of you subscribers, all of you podcast listeners, all of the viewers. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please take a moment and do so. All right, let's get to tonight's guest, one of whom you met last Tuesday. The other is joining us for the first time. We have Matthew Cook from LA, California, and Steve Cass will be joining as well. And we will also have Greg Harrison from Seattle, Washington. Here we have Steve and Matthew. We will start with you guys. Steve, I believe you wanted to open with a few comments, so I'm going to put it over to you, and welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Nice to be here again. The bar's been set pretty high for me because of episode 2 with the 3 M's, and I thank them for that. Thank you again for the opportunity for us to do the TAG reveal on SCL. All of us collectively and individually think that you've done a great job. We think the questions have been exploring. We think your opinions have been well-founded and valuable, appropriate. And we also think the questions and responses that we were able to give to the audience were fruitful efforts. And we appreciate the fact that everyone worked to stay within the context of the subject at hand. We have received literally hundreds of emails and supporting communications, and it means a lot to us, each of us that have been working at TAG. And I would love to be able to respond to all the communications that we've received, but to be honest, the overwhelming majority of them are positive, and it takes a lot of time to respond individually. So I want to thank all the people that have offered their positive responses and support for what we're doing. There's also, obviously, and to be expected, negative comments, and many of them are comments that we feel when we deal with the topics that they present, we will respond to. But I do want to make sure everybody understands that we want to respond to every negative comment. The negative comments are very important to us. And we are asking the people who have a negative comment just to send us their name, their email address, and tell us in writing that we can respond to the comment and use their name and comment on our website to show the comment that was made and the response. And we're more than happy to do that, but we don't want to get into the business of answering negative comments that nobody associates themselves with. I do want to specifically mention that there was a comment I ran into somewhere about the 200 card study that I referenced, and the comment was basically that the validity of the study was put into doubt because the person who asked the question commented that when we did the 200 cards the second time, we had culled out 50 cards, if you recall, for the trimming test. And the commentator who had the negative thought stated that because we didn't grade the 150 cards the second time with the grading companies, that the results weren't valid. So I went back and looked at the video and actually confirmed that I did say that the 150 cards went to each of the 3 grading companies. And I apologize if I didn't say it clearly enough. So I don't attribute that comment to anything negative. I think the comment makes sense if you did not understand that the 150 cards were resubmitted to the grading companies. I think I also may have misstated something about TAG's interest in profit. What I said was that at the time that you had asked me about the start of TAG and where the vision came from, and I said that I had no interest in the time at profit potential, the opportunity to make money. That was not a driving factor for me. And I received a comment from somebody saying that since I wasn't interested in profit, we'd probably be willing to grade the cards for free or $5. And I wanted to correct that because I probably misspoke. I was saying that profit was not the incentive for me to go into this business, but profit's very important to the company right now. But it's important for varying reasons, and I want to make sure that everybody understands the reasons. We have a very strong commitment to providing some of our profits to philanthropy. I would not be in business ever if that was not the case. We also want to include some of our profits in a profit sharing plan for all non-management, all the employees. I think everybody who contributes to the company's success should benefit from that success. And so they should all have an interest in the profit of the company. I also want to, am willing to reduce our profitability by making sure that management has a very well-earned and reflective bonus plan for achieving everything that they're expected to do. And lastly, I want to make sure that we have a profit sharing plan for submitters. Only if we can develop a plan that allows us to believe that the money they make from TAG will be reinvested in the growth of the hobby. So profits are not just intended to be for the benefit of the founders of the company or investors. More generally stated, we want to invest in the company culture. We want to increase the employee benefits. We want to expand the number of cards that we grade and the type of cards that we grade and other collectibles that we intend to grade. We want to develop and add new revenue streams to the company. We want to develop new and innovative software and hardware advancements. We want to expand the grading and other services throughout North America and the international markets. We think that is all of benefit to the hobby, creating more demand for cards, and that in turn creates higher pricing. And the money that's left from doing that will be the pool of money from which distributions to the founders and investors will be made. So I wanted to clear up the issue of our desire to be profitable. I also wanted to mention how appreciative I am of the 3 M's, Matt, Michael, and Mark, on the episode 2 presentation. It's important for me to let the viewers know that our management team is very capable, very hardworking, And they're also cross-trained in every area of the business. And they're also cross-trained in our technology, its development, and its use. So tonight, in episode 3, Matt's going to present the digital image and grading report. It was a tough decision because we have 6 people in-house who could do tonight's episode. Why Matt? Matt won't say this, so that's why I'm saying it. There is a part of that digital image and grading report that was Matt's vision. And I want to be sure that Matt gets recognized for that. And so when that part of the digital image and grading report comes up, if Matt doesn't highlight that it was his vision to do that, I will. But I want everybody to know that is one of the singular contributions that all of our people make. But in this particular case, I attribute this to Matt. Greg is the CTO of DevBlock Technologies. He's here, of course. He'll answer some questions about the output and the detailed image and grading report. He's been with us for approximately 3 years, operating as a chief engineer for us in the development of the tag grading system and ancillary technologies. Last week, a comment was made about, in a question asked of the 3Ms about their passion and how it started and got into the grading business. And if you recall, they talked about having had a passion for music and that it was a shared passion, and ultimately the passion for cards won out, and to TAG's benefit, this is where their passion lies. So I dug this out. I wanted to show everybody. I don't know if you can see this. This is an album. They started with the company in 2014-15. This album is from 2014, and this is Capitol Records. They'd already been on tour. So some people say, oh, I gave up one passion and I took on another. This is people giving up a passion that was a dream. You can see the age. Matter of fact, you can see the age that that dream started on this. So when these guys say, I had a passion for music and I gave up that passion for tag, it means something. It means a lot. They were riding high and they had that dream from childhood. So I wanted everybody to appreciate what we all know here with respect to the 3Ms and their commitment. I also made a comment that's come back to me in somewhat of a haunting way. And it wouldn't be part of tonight's presentation, but it merits being addressed, I think. I said 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, that we don't hire graders, that we don't need graders. And unfortunately, I was not clear. We don't hire graders to grade cards. We do hire people with grading expertise for verification of things that the system generates, but not to put any input into the scoring, attribute scoring, or the card grading. That's 100% objective. Because some people have commented, well, you mean you don't even check on the system? Of course we do. We have 5 Q&A places within our process, from order submission to image capture, the printing, the slabbing, shipping, overall camera work of maintaining images of all cards, a lot of quality assurance. I just wanted to make sure that was expressed. Tonight, we're going to discuss the detailed image and grading report. This is really, I think, a nice contribution to the industry. And I expect it to be received positively. And I'm open to any comments about the output that this system provides, and hopefully we can deal with that, especially with Greg here. I believe that this dig, that we call it the dig report, is so advanced, it's so superior to any feature out there that alleges to be able to offer grading transparency, that it's very representative of our system's capabilities. And it needs to be looked at as something that's unique and new and a contribution to the hobby. It enables anybody who's interested in a card graded by tag not to just be told why the card has that grade, but to actually see with complete transparency what the basis is for that grade. So when you see that, please, if you would, keep that in mind. The I had one. Oh, I also wanted to mention that we've had a huge number of inquiries and responses and communications, and a couple of those are of an international variety, investors from North America, Asia, in addition to the ones we've previously received. This is new people, and the comments have been so supportive, and they've been so generous with their willingness to let us know what they think of what we're doing. I wanted to just give a shout out to those people and say thank you. I think I had mentioned last time, one last thing. I think I mentioned last time that I had three passions and have three passions in life. And one of them, of course, is my family. The other one is cards and the collecting or hobbying of cards. And I said the third one was the City of Hope. And those have not changed. That is correct. But shortly after I made that comment and the show ended, my former wife and best friend called me and said, "I can't believe that you mentioned Jason, my son, and your sister, and you didn't mention me." And she's absolutely right. And so, Diane, I want to apologize to you. And I could not have any passion for family that does not include you. So please accept my apologies. And publicly, I want to acknowledge I made that very, very serious mistake. So I'm going to toss it over to Matt and Greg. I'm going to sit on the sidelines here if something comes up. But thank everybody for their continued support. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. And Jeremy, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, you bet, Steve. And thank you for, I think it's a great, that's a nice thing about doing these live shows is that, we're, especially when we're doing this series of 5 episodes that, we can offer Steve the ability and the opportunity to come back on and clarify anything and respond to some of the feedback that you've received. So I'm glad you took that opportunity, Steve. Okay. Let's get on with the program. Lots of comments coming in, everybody. Thanks for joining. Jordan Hudson, they called the DIG report Digital Image and Grading Report. So that's what that is. I see your comments there. But I want to say to you, Matt, again, great to have you back. Great job on Tuesday with your brothers, Mark and Michael. And I'm going to bring out Greg right now. Greg, this is Greg Harrison. Greg, welcome to the show for the first time. You're in Seattle, Washington. How are you?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me on board, Jeremy. And by the way, shout out to your intro piece. It's got a nice beat.
I appreciate that. We'll tell my friend Sean Cates from Victory Investments that you like the beats that he laid down there. I think that's how the cool kids might say it these days. So
Nicely
as
done.
Steve mentioned, today's episode is episode number 3 of the Reveal, and we're going to be going over the Digital Image and Grading Report, as they call it in-house, the DIG report. Before we get on with that, and again, thank you, Steve, for your comments. Greg, I do want to take an opportunity to get to know you a little bit first and ask you, how did you come to be involved with TAG? And can you please define your role for the audience?
Yeah, maybe last one first. My role is one of lead architect for the TAG project. I came into the project as Steve mentioned. I'm the CTO. Even though I'm the CTO, really my day-to-day role for DevBlock Technologies as a consultancy agency is lead architect, right? So I work with clients to help develop their business and technical requirements and turn those into both a business and technical vision, and then a roadmap to and an architecture to build out that solution. And roughly, just going on 3 years ago, it's amazing how the time flies. But and it's amazing to see all of this culminate into where we are today, and seeing this come to fruition and almost ready to hit the market. I met Steve and the team. We hosted them up here in a meeting in Seattle, learned about their vision and their passion in this industry. And I was hooked immediately, right? I'm a person who, whenever we have these client meetings, I'll take that night and I'll do deep dive on the industry and challenges in the marketplace, and all of the things that they spoke to in terms of things they'd like to solve for in the industry and how they'd like to bring value to the industry. These were all things that I got very excited about, even though I myself I was not at that time an active collector, right? I understood the marketplace. I've spent a lot of time in various marketplaces, and do very well about PSA and the card grading method. What I didn't know, were about the details of many of the challenges that Steve and the team brought to bear, including I hope at some point Steve's studies come to light, because those were very enlightening. But we'll give him all the opportunity to continue to reference those. But yeah, thanks. My role was essentially lead architect. I got introduced when they approached us to help them form the vision and try to see about taking the solution to market.
So for the past 3 years, has this been pretty much what you've been spending 100% of your time on?
100% of my time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. It's been, I've had other companies. I've founded companies, sold companies. This is very much a traditional startup, and a very tight relationship with Steve and the brothers and Scott, who we'll talk to more, especially in the next episode. So yeah, it's a very close team, right? And it's been, it's like I said, it's hard to believe 3 years have transpired, but we've done a lot of work in that period of time.
And when you say we, can I ask, you have a team that has worked with you for the past 3 years? It's not you alone?
Yeah, I am kind of the tip of the spear, so to speak, right? In the lead architect role, I've got a small army of people behind me, right? I'd give a shout out to one of my co-technical architects, Yoy Bino, right? He's also with the Devlock team. We have a number of other people that have participated heavily in this project. Gary as our lead PM in the US, and then we have an offshore team that we've worked with for many years. And they're not responsible for some of the more technical detail, right? But they're responsible for building out website content, the web application, the order management system, these types of things, where it's React front end, Node.js back end, the types of technologies that you build website and web applications with. That's their bread and butter. And the territory in terms of creating and modeling and implementing advanced mathematical models and algorithms around the types of things that we do in the card grading system, that's Yoy and I's bread and butter.
I have 2 more questions for you before we go back to Matt and get into the digital image and grading report. One is, you've mentioned the company that you work with is called DevBlock. What other sort of work does DevBlock do? I'm trying to really gain. I want the hobby to understand who is behind this the tech that TAG is going to be rolling out.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, we're based in Seattle. We are, I would say we're a technical and business consultancy, right? Our historical client base is one where we will take, greenfield concepts from business to execution, right? And that will include, in many times, not just translating directly to technical requirements, but this a lot of times, our team, we've got hundreds of combined years of business experience, right, in our team, from fundraising, right, to, building a business plan, to executing, to building companies, selling companies. And so we provide a series of services to our clients. And, we do all sorts of projects. We've done a lot of healthcare. I designed and implemented a 911 operations system, right, for Snohomish County here in state of Washington. All sorts of interesting technical projects where, we help the client establish a clear vision, refine that vision, and bring it to market. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think it's great context there. And then the other question I want to know is, because you mentioned that you weren't too familiar with the hobby. Have you ever been a collector?
Not actively trading. I tell you though, in the 3 years, now that believe me, understanding the inside and outs of what a perfect card is, I don't think there's probably anybody other than my partner Scott who we'll talk to and spend more time with, in the next podcast, in terms of understanding really the nitty gritty of what a perfect card looks like, right? To me, that's where it gets me. It hooks me, right? Kind of the take it apart, put it all back together kind of aspect of my personality, which is, really understanding, what drives a card grade, and how come that hasn't been consistent and repeatable. Those are problems that got me engaged more so, rather than from the collector side bringing me into it. I was, what really engaged me was the sense of, let's solve this problem, right? I couldn't believe, this multi-billion-dollar marketplace, right, existed in a state where people would just resubmit cards until they got the grade that they wanted, right? And
That sounds
I,
crazy, doesn't it?
yeah. So there are a lot of technologies that we've developed that I'm really excited about. Our fingerprinting technology, our defect detection systems, all aspects of our measurement system, the grading system. It's a piece of, I mean, it's an artwork, right? I mean, it's an amazing scaffolding for how to put the thousands of data points that we collect, right, from objective measurement capture, right, to an ultimate grade. And my hat goes off, Steve. We got to give Scott a shout out at some point, because although I may be the technical architect, Scott has been tremendous in the process of translating all of this hard data into how it becomes a grade.
Yeah, I appreciate you shouting out Scott, and I think it's important that the audience knows that that it was a collaborative effort between yourself, the lead architect behind the system, and Scott, a very experienced sports card hobby veteran, and with years of experience working in card grading for a major card grading company. So I think that that's very important. And meeting Scott myself, I have the utmost respect for his ability just in the conversations we've had around a card and condition, and the importance of different things within the card's condition, the various elements and attributes. I know that he knows what he's talking about, and he understands how the hobby looks at cards and their condition. And now you're the person who takes these concepts and makes it into an automated grading system. For people who may have joined us a little bit late, where we've doubled our viewership in the last 6 minutes or so. So a bunch of you who just got here, welcome to the show. This is Greg Harrison from DevBlock, who is the CTO of TAG and the lead architect on the TAG automated grading system. The last thing I'm going to ask you, Greg, is I want to ask you, what have you learned about the hobby in these last 3 years that you've been working on the system? What have you, outside of what makes a perfect card and outside of what the hobby is interested in far as condition, what have you learned about the overall hobby that we might find interesting?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the thing that I feel really I think that the most compelling thing for me is, and it stands out, you've already seen the slabbed card, right? To me, a highly valued card is something that I want to be able to showcase in my trophy case, right? So to me, as a layperson initially, right, I was amazed by just the aesthetics of slab cards coming into this. And everybody on the team brought a little bit something different to this project. And Matthew, right, as we talked about earlier, right, plays his part as much as we probably don't talk about it enough. He's not only a great attention to detail guy, but he also has a great designer's eye, right? And I know it was a team effort to put the slab together. That to me, right, the thing that was most shocking to me was how much we can improve the showcase capability of a highly valued card, right? And I think the methodology, the detailed reporting, right? Can you dig it, right? The grading report, and all the things that we're bringing to market are going to definitely increase the collectible value, right, of these individual cards. And as a collector, right, the universe of cards that I have in my collection. And so from my perspective, the insight is, I can't wait to see how the market observes, right, and embraces what the team has done here, because the highest value cards that I've seen in the types of slabs with the supporting objective, completely transparent grading data, right, to me can't do anything but lift the value, right, of those cards even more.
All right. Well, I appreciate those. It's always nice to hear opinions and thoughts on and perspectives on our hobby from somebody who isn't a lifer like myself, but has been immersed in it for such a long period of time with a very focused direction and initiative. The project you've been working on. So I appreciate those insights. I think sometimes us as hobbyists, we feel like we know exactly what the hobby is and what it needs and what it doesn't need and what's good and what's bad for it. Sometimes it's good to hear, and I don't mean to call you an outsider, but a new sider, someone, if that's a word, someone new coming in, and what do you, especially after immersing yourself, what you think and feel about the hobby. Okay, well, thanks for that, Greg, and great to get to know you and to see you again. I think I saw you last time would have been in early March for a few minutes when I was at the TAG facility, and you were zoomed in and we got to have a nice discussion. So good to see you again. And you'll hang out with us and you'll be jumping in as we go through some things. Before I go back to Matt, we're going to go to the crowd. We're going to say hello to some of the people that are here and maybe bring a couple comments up quickly. And let's do that. Brian Adams, welcome to you to the show. We've got Baz here. Welcome to the show. Christine Heward is here. Rocco Rosado says, good evening. Let's play a game of tag with Jeremy and Team Tag. Good to have you as always, Rocco. Jeff McMahon. Yeah, I'm feeling better. I'm still not 100%, but I appreciate it. Wiz Collectibles is back. Good to see a teapot in the house. What is going on, my man? Luke, pretty tight hockey game going on. I saw that. I just noticed that the Rangers tied it up 1-1, and then like less than 20 seconds later, Tampa Bay scored again. I believe it's 2-1 Tampa, and I think they're going to win the cup. So anyway, that could be a controversial comment. We'll see what you guys think. Good evening, Albert. Good evening, Fact Sakes. Good to see you. Sadly, it feels like Tampa's night. TCG Stock says, I heart Tag. Nice to have you. And Tag is in the comments, and they will be. I'm not sure who that is, but someone from Tag is in the comments and can address some of the questions that you guys may have. Richard, great to have you. Thank you for being here. Daniel Busby says, I wanted to tell you I started watching hockey. I love these high-scoring games. Do you believe the league is telling the players to play less defense? I do not think the league is telling the players to play less defense, Daniel, but good to have you. Game Time Gallery says, kudos to Tag. There is always room in this hobby for innovation. Right on Game Time. Steve Foley, great to have you. Skeppy is here for episode number 3. Jim is here, says, reminds everybody, don't forget to click that like button. I appreciate that, Jim. Wiz Collectible says, the passion and enthusiasm the Tag team has shown in these episodes is second to none. Can't wait to see how the grading process works. Again, that is next Saturday, episode 4. We're calling this the output episode. That will be the input episode. And I think, Victor, your comment coming up will be addressed next Saturday. What else do we have here from all of you guys? Tag clarifies that, as Steve mentioned, the DIG report is the Digital Image and Grading Report. That is just the simple acronym that they use in-house. Dylan Byrne, love the product, must have a really solid technical team behind the database construction. Let's hold right there and just ask you, Greg, is there a database constructed to support all of this? If you want to address that quickly.
Yeah, a little bit of an understatement. So we gather thousands of data points for every card as a part of the digital capture and measurement system. And yeah, there is no shortage of broad database schema coverage on the data that we collect, and most importantly, how that data is then structured in a way that can be easily reported on. And we took some great pains to make sure that we could architect the schema and the data so that the OMS, the order management system, and the UI and the population report, everything you're going to see is really snappy, right? So we're ultimately dealing, I've built systems that take into up to billions of records per day, right? In my prior work at Comscore, this is similarly architected, right, to effectively, although maybe not a billions of records per day, but be architected to store and scale, right, to hundreds of millions of records over the course of time. So
thank you for that. Appreciate it. Studio Sports, welcome to the show. Hope you have a great weekend as well. This the Break says, are your slabs already out in the market? I think the answer at today is simply no, but we will be addressing everything that's coming in episode 5, which is called The Future for Tag. Eric Sanderson to Orr says, Greg just nailed the problem with grading in a nutshell. People just keep submitting their cards until they get the grade they want, and this is something that you hear of over. There's been people that have made a living doing that, and I think that Tag solves for that. Victor, yeah, we will. You're asking with so many points. Sorry, with this many points of inspection, are there parameters with so much attention to detail? How does one have a chance at getting a 10? That's a great. Actually, we're going to address that a little bit later today. A portion of that, Victor. So please do hang tight. Bink Scott, so hard to break into third-party grading. Wishing the best of luck to these guys. Very nice. Justin Vick says, I saw a Beckett sub on Twitter that was the size of a manila folder. I saw that too today, actually. That who knows what that was. Tampa goes ahead. Very good. Facebook user, not sure who that is. But if anyone is on Facebook, you can go to streamyard.com/Facebook and click the big blue button and it'll show me your name. Hello, Jeremy S. And Justin Vick says it's Saturday night and I'm geeking out over pop reports, baby. Hello, Dumbledore, and hello, Rod. And okay, with all of that, and again, welcome everybody to the show. We're already 36 minutes in and I feel like we're just getting started. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you. Reminder, you are on mute. If you would like to sort of just jump in and let me know where you want to start.
Sure. Just maybe for any new viewers, maybe just to throw up on the screen quickly. Here's an example of what our slab looks like. It's completely transparent. All of the data is UV cured on the acrylic itself. And then as we'll go into later in the episode, at any point when somebody wants to get all of the digital imaging and grading report that we provide for free with every card graded, all they have to do is scan the tag grade, and then it'll take them to the grading report that I'll show shortly. So for anybody who hasn't seen, this is also available in more detail at taggrading.com.
And also, guys, you can follow them on Instagram. It's on the ticker right now, their website and their Instagram handle. Back to you, Matt.
Great. So we can jump into the pop report, and I can sort of walk through, and here it is up on the screen now. And so I just wanted to, basically what we did was we had an isolated instance. This was an order of 41 cards. That Steve might want to speak to this more, but the nature of what we're showing is, because we're not showing the totality of the pop report for when we officially start grading, we are pulling some segregated data just to basically show the viewers. So
for illustrative purposes today, I think that's fine and clear, and thank you for clarifying. Okay,
so in this example, we have a total of 41 baseball cards graded, a heaping 41. So we're just going to sort of drill into it. I think most people are familiar with the basic layout of the pop report. We have the number of sets and the total graded, and then we have the year. So if we go into 2020, you can see right away one of the things that we did to sort of make things simpler is we have a bar chart up at the top. So you can quickly get a glance by the industry standard grade at where cards are commonly being graded. So you can see for baseball sets, we have, hover over this and you get a percentage. 55% of them have come out 9s, 17, and then we have 39%, 12. So it's just kind of a nice way to be able to quickly get a glance at where the spread's falling.
Could I?
Sure.
One thing that is interesting, this is not a statistically valid sample, 41 cards, although it is an order that we received of 41 cards that we did not pre-select. But this would show that this card grades more often a 9 than a 10, and would tell the ratio between those two. But as you go through the cards, I think it would be important for people to go into other population reports and compare those percentages and determine for yourself whether or not tag is consistent with the industry grading standard or trying to ask you, the submitter, to accept some new standard. So I believe you'll see that it is as readily available, a 10, as readily available on TAG's grading system as it is anywhere else. Go ahead.
Sure.
Thanks, Steve. Go back to you then, Matt.
Sure. So I'm just going to keep drilling down a little bit. So if we go into Topps Chrome, we have, and here, let me spread this out a little further. I think, there we go. Okay, so you can see here we have a bunch of Louis Robert cards that have been graded. And if we drill down into a specific refractor, say here, we can see the grade. This is what we call the card view. So one thing that I'm going to step back for a second. One thing that's unique about ours is not only do we show how many of that card there are, we will show specifically what those grades are. So if you click on this, you have the picture of this card, the Louis Robert here, all the details, and then we can see there's been 2 graded of this exact card. And we can see what the exact grades are of each of them. We have the tag grade here. There was a 910, which came out industry standard grade as a 9 mint. There was an 887, which was also 9 mint. And then one of my favorite things that really gets me excited about this is because we grade on a 1,000-point scale, we have this ability to create a leaderboard in a ranking system. So you can see rank by grade. This is the highest graded card. This is the second highest. And because there are only 2 and they're both 9 mint, these are 1 and 2. And the overall card rank is also 1 and 2. But say we had an 8 here, this would be the highest 8. So the rank would be 1. So it's nice because you could always know, oh, I have the highest 8 graded. I have the highest 9 graded. I have the highest 10 gem mint. I have the highest 10 pristine. So at any time, you can check the rank by grade and your overall card rank. We also have the date that it was graded, and that translates directly into a new feature we call chronology. So this we like a lot because for many reasons, but one of the things that we think is cool is to be able to say that you were the first person to get a card graded. So we have an overall chronology and then again a chronology by grade. Similar sort of logic as the ranking system. We have the cert number, and then I kind of skipped over, but we also have we call this the geopop function. So we track where all of the cards have been submitted from so that we can start to create this sort of data sprawl. And we really like this because in particular, I think Steve will discuss it in episode 5, but for the future, when we're planning on integrating the pod system, we can send our technology to those locations that are submitting a lot of cards. So this becomes, I think, a very interesting aspect to see where cards are coming from. Another thing is we have this filter. So if you wanted to say this had 10,000 cards in it, we could filter this and just be able to look at all the 7s that were graded. There's no 7s currently, but we have the 9s. So that's a little glimpse of the pop report drilling down. And then here's the real unique feature, which is getting into the grading report. So when you go to, for example, this specific 910, and you want to view the grading report for this, you jump over, and this takes us to the grading report. So here we see your Louis Robert card. That was the same 910 that you see right here.
Matt, is this what is this next screen that you're showing right here? Is this the digital image and grading report, just to be clear?
Yes. So which we call the dig sometimes, and grading report, dig, digital imaging and grading report. There's been a lot of affectionate terms, but we think dig has a
Dig into.
Yeah, you can really dig into the grades. So here we have that card. We have the flip that's mirrored as the same as the actual card itself, the 4 subgrades, and then the feature to be able to zoom in here. This is actually the card completely raw. So this is the view if it's without annotations, which you'll see a little bit later on. But we can look in and see in high detail what sort of stuff's going on with the card.
How far in does that magnification go? What X? What multiplier?
800%, where you can really see like the print details here, these circles. And then the next feature that we really like here, which is really exciting, I think, is this photometric stereoscopic imaging. So this is a surface defect transparency slider that we've integrated, which allows you to see the card the way that the system sees it. So as you scale this down, you'll be able to see this sort of tag X-ray, we like to call it, which really reveals the defects and makes it clear where there is stuff that's wrong, especially when you have like a big scratch on a card or a bunch of pits, just sort of like removes the curtain, so to speak. So we'll get more into this, and then you can also zoom in with this functionality. But we'll get more into that a little bit further down the page. The next thing I want to focus on is we have your cert number here. And then we have these three key factors: the population, the card rank, and the chronology. And then, oh, Steve just reminded me one thing I forgot was our cert numbers. We're going to offer customization here. So say you got your card, you bought it from the National, and you wanted to submit it and make sure that for your set registry, you want to have every card you've bought at the National start with NAT. We'd be able to have that customizable. Obviously, you can't do something that's already taken, but we are integrating that feature. So we have these three core pillars of data for each card. There's the population as of date, because obviously this is going to change every day.
Is that in real? Does that change at midnight every night, or is it in real time?
Greg?
Nightly. Yeah, we update, essentially the day's worth of grading data is published to the population report at the end of every day.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this says the date there. So if somebody wanted to screenshot this and showcase their card, it has that data there already for them. And then these fields correlate to the same fields that you saw in the pop report. So you have the rank by grade, overall card rank. And then you see here, this is the rank by grade and the overall card grade. And then again, just to further explain, if this is the same right now because we're looking from a very small sample size, but if we had 10 of these, this might have I don't know, 4 and total grade at 10.
And the hobby really likes to know that information, right? I know we all, even on eBay, and I'm sorry for jumping in, but I just want to make the comment that one of the things I like to see when I see a card for sale that is a graded card, I like to see what the population is and how many are graded higher. And I believe that this box on the far left provides that insight.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And then, so then the next thing is the card rank. So we have the rank by grade and then the rank overall. To get both of these one would be pretty rare. You'd have to be dealing with either a card has a very small population or very high-end pristine card. So that's that slot. And then the chronology, like I explained before, has to do with when you had it graded. And the date you had it graded is also here, because I think that's something that a lot of people like to know, when the card was specifically graded.
Yeah, actually, I think for card rank, the only way you could get a 1-in-1 at first, you'd have to have the first card graded. So for it to be the highest overall grade, you could get a 1. I guess it's theoretically possible you could do it.
It'd be tough.
It'd be very difficult to do it other than on a first card.
And as we scroll down, we make our way into the sort of data section. So this is the tag grading summary. So we have the tag grade here.
I asked you to acknowledge.
Oh, I guess Steve wants me to acknowledge that I had a large input in designing this. 910 here, we have I've been envisioning for a long time, like, what do I want to see when I have a card graded? And so I've gone through so many different iterations of this, and this has been the one that makes me feel confident and just feel secure about getting a card graded. It's like I have all the data that I could possibly want. It's laid out in front of me in a way that breaks it down very clearly. And I think people will appreciate that, the transparency. So yeah, as I was saying, it starts with 910. You get a front and a back grade. So this is 921 and a 909. Then we have the centering breakdown, the corners breakdown, front and back for each, surface front and back for each, edges front and back. And we also have the dimensions, which, as you can see, to the third decimal place, pretty accurate. And then as that further breaks down, we have this graph, which actually shows the detailed corner analysis for each corner and edge. And then also the chart, which on this, we have annotations for where the defects are. So you can see the system here caught a pit up here, caught a scratch over here. We have the centering. Looks like this was a 5119 and a 4881, top to bottom, left to right, 4554. We also have the dimensions here, which you also saw up here. So
let me jump in. I like that you've added dimensions, because that's something that I've never seen or heard of being offered back to the customer of any grading company. And I think we know that the standard size is 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And the fact that you're showing that exact measurement to 3 decimal places is it's just above and beyond what the hobby has been conditioned to expect. And I think it's going to blow people away that you're providing that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we agree. And I think that there's a lot of things we can learn, and the system will continue to learn in terms of counterfeit detection and things of that nature, because of the fact that we can look at the size in such high detail. So anyway, all of these icons are clickable. They'll automatically navigate you down to the next section. So if we want to go to surface, for instance, this is the SFX image, the tag X-ray, which you saw up there. However, this one has the annotations marked on it. So if we zoom in, you can see, for example, here. And by the way, if you can zoom using this button, but you can also zoom in with your cursor if you scroll to that area. So if you zoom in here, you can see, looks like it looks like a scratch. You can look and see.
Can you zoom in there a little bit more? I saw some red notation or something there.
So I just wanted to identify here that it shows the location here, scratch. And then we can see here, number 3, it was the scratch, the location, the region and area. And here's the, that's at the 800% zoom level. And then actually, just to show you, we can slide this surface defect transparency slider and then look at what it looks like on the actual card itself. So you can see it's there, the scratch is there, but I think this kind of highlights the ability of the system to turn something that, you know, a human might miss depending upon the grader, and really turn it into a quantifiable data point. So that's an example of it catching a scratch.
And if I may, on that particular scratch, so people don't think the tag system's going to overly penalize cards because of its extreme ability to find defects, the front and back scores on this are 958 and 941. So you can see there's virtually no penalty for these particular defects. These are at the lower end of what the system will consider for grading. We see defects below this that are not annotated, and we call those not human observable defects, NHODs. And the system also picks up NHODs, and those, of course, can be used for digital fingerprinting or other things that we are thinking about right now.
I just want to stop there for a moment, because what I'm hearing with these NHODs, or I think you said non-human observable deficiencies, right? Or defects. That really makes me, I like it. I like that. And the reason why I like that is because, you know, there's something to be said for, like, you know, if I can't see it, I don't care. Yet an automated grading system is going to pick up every defect on a card that a human can't see. So does that mean, Steve, that really does that bridge the gap between, a collector or investor who says, listen, I mean, the card is beautiful. My human eye can't detect that. So if it's non-human observable, then is the tag system going to award or I guess penalize the card much less, if not at all, because of it? Yet it does still allow you to identify it, which I have to think comes in very handy when it comes to fingerprinting. Can you speak to that a little bit?
I'll take a shot and then we'll kick it to Greg. Yes, the system is designed to identify all those defects. As you get down into the lower spectrum with respect to size, location, the depth, length, whatever of a defect, of course, its impact on a roll-up score or its impact on a card grade becomes so minimal that at some point it's virtually non-existent to the grade. But below that, we still have defects that are non-human observable defects. And those are defects that are not being annotated by the system to impact on grading, but they are being identified by the image capture so that everybody who wants to will find out what those defects are. Greg, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, I like the new nomenclature, the NHOD. Yeah, Jeremy, it's a good question. From our perspective, you can absolutely have a industry standard grading scale 10, right, while having identifiable defects, whether they are human observable or not, right? Very, very slight, for example, very, very, very slight scratches or a very, hardly observable pit probably alone are not going to sway the card off of a 10, right? We've found many cards, right, that will have NHODs, right? But one of the beautiful aspects of the grading system that we've implemented here is that we can differentiate, right, and scale, right, the defect deductions that are applied to a relevant measurement, right, so that it is scoring it appropriately from kind of a more traditional, like we said, industry standard grading scale. Yeah. I might point out that just in case anybody asks the questions, one of the things you can kind of faintly make out when Matthew is zooming in and out of that image is a green box and white boxes. And so another aspect that we should just mention here is, for example, the location of a particular, just like in a standard grading scale environment, right? A defect on the face, right, is going to count as a higher deduction than something, off center, right? And so we establish a series of zones or regions on the card, and we also identify through facial detection an area around any facial aspects of the card image. And so those areas themselves also factor into the severity of the deduction, as well as the type, size, depth, a whole number of factors that determine, how a deduction is actually being applied.
Okay, appreciate the insight. Matt, you want to keep on going and going through the digital image and grading report from sort of continue from top to bottom as you've been scrolling through?
Sure, yeah. And before I moved on, I just wanted to show there was also a pit on the front that it detected, which I zoomed in here. And so just wanted to display that defect, which you can see is there.
Yeah.
So, and then also we have some stuff on the back. Looks like a scratch over here. And I saw another one here. So anyway, the next section is the front corners. So here's where you can see, by default, we enable display the measurement annotations. So you can toggle this on and off if you want to see it raw. But this has a lot of the corner angles highlighted, peculiar, as you can see, fray, fill defects, corner surface wear, the angle, and you can really go in and drill down into this stuff and see various defects and unique aspects of the card. So that's here for a front corner. We have back corner. Then we have the edges, same thing here. If you were to zoom in, you can explore these annotations, back edges. And then here at the very bottom, we have the slabbed image capture, which has the card in its slab itself. And so that's the entirety of the grading report. And I think all of this data available and just providing this to people will do a lot for explaining a grade. So that's a little glimpse. And then we also have another hockey card that if you want to go through. But sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, I'll let you continue on. So this is just another example. I appreciate you, hockey being my favorite sport to watch and collect. I appreciate you bringing a hockey card onto that. Nice little surprise. Yeah, what would you like to say about this version of the report, if anything?
I just pulled up another one that I thought was interesting to showcase. This hockey card, we've got a little bit more intense of a grade. It's got an 803, so it actually got a 796 on the front. Looks like there was some corner issues on the front. Also surface. Yeah. Here we have. Looks like there's 4 pits and a scratch over here. So again, just going through the process, we can sort of dig in here and look. Here are those pits.
Oh yeah, look at that. You can see several there.
And then can toggle this and see how they, there you can see them on the card itself. Right.
I saw a comment that came in where somebody said, like, no one's going to want to see this level of detail their card. And then Troy's Collectible says, I just love the expanded details of card grading, just love it. So really, everyone's going to have a different approach and a different opinion. And if you really don't want to know the condition of your card, then maybe you don't need to get into the digital image and grading report, and you can just look at the summary data, which is pretty cool too. But for people who do care, this offers so much more information. And I guess some people might say it might be a bit of overkill, but let's face it, up until now we get nothing. We get absolutely zero information on why our cards grade the way they do. And it seems to me like TAG is saying, well, that's ridiculous. Let's give all the information. So they could have given less information. So to say that no one's going to care about this level of detail, it's like, well, so what? Like that's just a silly comment, because it's we're getting so much more information. We're just getting all of the information. I think all is better than none. And if not, then that's fine. If that's not how nothing wrong with that approach either, I suppose. Lots of comments coming in here. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get to all of them, but we're gonna go through some. Is that okay with you, Matt? Greg, is there anything that you want to jump in with before I go through some comments, or even Steve?
Yeah, there was one just in response to that comment, Jeremy, about I put yourself in the place of anybody that's received a card back from a grading vendor, right? And you've looked at that card and you've been disgusted or disappointed, right? And dismayed, right? Like you were certain when you submitted that card that it was at least a 9, right? Or that it's a pristine 10 and it comes back as a 7 or an 8, right? Or a low 9, right? And you don't have any data points to support that thesis, right? That finding, right? And again, we talked about from somewhat of a lay system, from a layperson's perspective, right? It seems like one of the biggest frustrations that I would have would be to submit a card, get it back with a grade that I just didn't understand anything about why I would have achieved that grade. Here's your answer, right? You have all the details and more about how you arrived by that particular score.
Yeah, I think more is always the better position to take. More information is better than none. And listen, this report is there. The other thing that's interesting is that other people who may be looking to purchase a card from you, if this card is listed on a public marketplace, they can find this report. They may be interested in the detail, even if you are not. A lot of flippers or sellers of cards maybe don't want to know just what the defects are of their card, and they don't want their customer to know. That's the opposite of transparency, and I think the hobby needs more transparency, not less. So that's my opinion, Jeremy Lee's opinion. And so I'm a big fan of more information. And if it's too much for you, then don't look at it. You can look at the summary data, which is still more than we're ever used to seeing. Lucky K has been asking this question: what magnification is used by the pod to determine the grading? And I'm going to ask you guys, is that better for episode 4 when we get into the grading system, which I think it is. So I'm just going to leave it at that. There was another question that came up. Someone had mentioned right here, Jay Wilson says, I want to see this grade bot. I like how people come up with their own names for things. I want to see this grade bot in action. What portion of the grading process is AI? What is human interaction? Just thinking throughout what has been the downfall of others. So I think there's a couple things here. I'm going to address them, and then I'm going to ask you guys to clarify for me. I like the term grade bot, Jay Wilson. Jay Wilson uses the term AI, and I know from talking to you guys that you guys do not. Actually, Greg, can you please address the usage of the term AI? Is it appropriate for what TAG is doing?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. AI is such a unicorn term, and it is used so loosely, right? Machine learning is probably a better term, right, to use, right, with respect to how grading systems can be automated and be able to identify and classify, aspects of defects and measurement, metrics, right, around observed measurements. Artificial intelligence, right, in today's context, right, as it applies to objective classification systems, is really a misnomer, right? Because that AI is essentially fed human result data, right? So training set data is data that is effectively fed to an AI system, a machine learning system, right, for the purposes of providing guidance to the AI on how to identify and classify, objects, right? In cases like the tag grading system, variants of things of what pits and scratches and print lines and all these various types of defects can manifest, right, in the imagery. And so this is all training set data, and we continue to collect training set data over the course of time to help continue to feed data into the machine learning system. So when people talk about AI, right, there is no magical unicorn AI system that just observes a card and says, here are defects and here's how they should be scored, right? There is a long history of data collection and training set data that has been used to be fed into the machine learning system for the purposes of helping that, I hate to call it AI, machine learning system, right, to be able to identify and classify, observable objects.
Okay, see, I think it's really important. It's great to have you here today, Greg, who understands what the term AI means when we as collectors throw that terminology out there and we don't even know what we're talking about. Let's face it, right? But I think you do, and I appreciate your insight into that. I'm going to go to a couple of comments again here. Ultimate Pastime says, great job, guys. Can't wait to see what the future holds for the industry. Jahan looks like an NBA whiteboard, being the digital imaging grading report. Jake Dolls thinks the tech is amazing. Ultimate Pastime, now people will be able to see why their card received the grade it did, which is amazing. I agree. Jahan says, Tag, you guys were smart to keep this quiet for so long. Lots of NDAs, I imagine. Jay Wilson says, this seems similar at a much more technical scale than what TGT is doing. And shout out to though, I'm friends with, Anthony's a great guy and I wish them well. Says this is much more impressive. And Troy says, we get nothing when grading. I prefer finding all the grading details. So looking forward to using TAG. There's also been several comments asking about, can we see a digital imaging grading report for a vintage card, as has been discussed and expressed on the last 2 episodes. As of launch, TAG is only grading cards from 2000 forward. So we will not see a digital imaging grading report on a vintage card in the month of June. However, they have also expressed, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve or Matt, that is something that is coming in the future, and they are working on it. It just, I believe, and maybe Greg, can you speak at all to, is it do we need, is the technology, does it have to be a little bit different? What can you say about that? Or Steve, do you want to jump in at all?
Greg, yeah, before you do, I don't know that we're even contemplating grading vintage cards. Vintage cards are prehistoric animals. There's never going to be more of them. As they get graded, there will be less of them that are remaining to be graded. Spending a lot of money and time to develop technology to grade an asset that's a disappearing asset, it just doesn't make sense to me. So it's not on the drawing board right now. We do intend to go back from 2000. We have an idea of how far back, but we're not going back to vintage as of today. But we are expanding to create more cards to grade by getting into the gaming cards, non-sport trading cards, and other collectibles. That's where we see the future, not in vintage cards.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood before, and you know, I'm gonna, you know, as long as we maintain a relationship, I'm gonna, you know, Steve, I'm gonna try to encourage you to go back further. But if it can't be done, it can't be done for whatever reason. I mean, that's something that that will just, hey, that's fine too. It one of those is what it is sort of things, and we'll adapt and move forward. Anything else?
I don't know that it can't be done. My concern today is that I don't believe it can be done to the same accuracy that modern era cards can be done. And I don't want to compromise the integrity of the tag brand by doing vintage cards that will not be graded with the same accuracy, consistency, and reproducibility of what we're doing today. So that's just where I'm at today. Technology changes every day. Guys like Greg figure out solutions to almost anything. So I don't want to say it's off the table. It's just we see other opportunities today that are more readily available.
Greg, anything you'd like to add, or is that
Yeah,
it?
sure. Yeah, I think he characterizes it pretty well. We've certainly imaged, right, plenty of older cards. It's really about, like he said, it's from a business perspective, it's about opportunity cost, right? What is the market potential for, you know, for the type and number of cards that would exist, right, in that older population versus newer populations, and looking forward to gaming and other non-sporting cards.
Okay. Okay.
It would be
Great.
difficult, I think, to get a reasonable return on investment, spending so much money to develop that technology and staying committed to your belief that every card pays the same fee, regardless of its value. That kind of runs against the grain of going out and grading vintage cards that are much more valuable cards and would cost much more to grade. So that's kind of where I'm at now, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll talk about it on the episode 5.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Lucky K says, Tag, you're not just another grading company. You reinvented it. Kudos. Very nice. Jay Wilson says it'll be amazing discovering counterfeit cards. Albert Jones, wouldn't this make people grading cards obsolete? I believe so. Well, especially from the range of cards that Tag is going to be grading. Wiz Collectibles, agree 100%. More transparency in the hobby. EY says, how is a foreign substance, for example, lint, dealt with? That's and I've seen the solution for that, EY, and let me tell you, it's freaking amazing. Pardon my pretend language there, but the way that they have dealt with that is they solved for it. That's what I can say. Anything that you guys would like to mention about that foreign substance?
Go ahead, Matthew. Do you want to talk about the deionizing and
well,
negative air pressure and?
Sure, yeah. The first measure of defense is we're using some medical grade technology, which is deionizing pencils. So we're spraying down with a gentle stream the card itself, but also all of the materials surrounding the card and the tray. Yeah, it's air. That deionizes it, which neutralizes the static electricity and makes it so that dust and various particles like lint don't want to stick. That's the first method of defense. The second one, maybe Greg, you want to take with the negative air pressure?
Yeah, it's mostly about ensuring that there's no introduction of foreign particles, and even the few that would exist using the deionizing allows them to be freed up, and there's always a filtered negative airflow right? And you'll see it in the next podcast, the actual image capture station. It's an enclosed system, right, with a filtered negative airflow system to ensure that A, contaminants are not readily available to enter the system, but B, if they are, they're essentially freed from the card and removed as a part of the imaging process.
Awesome. So handled. I love it. I love it.
And then-
Richard says, I'm surprised so many people are pushing back against more transparency. Isn't this what everybody's been begging for, Richard? I think some people don't know what they want, but I appreciate the comment. Definitely. JQ says, when will this tag ad be over? Goes on to say, multiple videos on the same sponsorship, WTH, meaning what the heck? And there was another comment here from somebody. I think it was Jahan. I can't find it right now. But I just want to make a comment about that. So, and I've been asked, why am I doing this with tag? Well, we've got over 120 people here. Let me tell you why I'm doing this. And let me tell you, and Steve I'm not being paid to do this. This is not a sponsorship deal. In February, Steve invited me to their facility in Los Angeles. I went to the facility. I saw what they were doing. They pulled back the curtain for me and showed me what they were doing. And I was blown away. If you've watched this show, I've been doing the show for over 2 years now. You know that I'm a pretty passionate hobbyist. The hobby is, besides my family, it's the number one thing in my life. I put it ahead of my career, and which it might sound crazy, but it's true. I'm more passionate about the hobby than I am my own career. And when I saw what they were doing, I was just blown away by how I felt. I just felt, I don't know, stupid, misled, like a bit of a fool, based on what I'd seen in the hobby that was available elsewhere. And it made me want to share the information, but I couldn't. It was, it was under wraps. They weren't ready to reveal themselves yet. And when they were ready, Steve said, hey, what do you think about doing the reveal on your channel? We respect you. We respect your audience. I said, you know what? I'd be happy to do that because I love what you're doing. The hobby needs to know about it. And I have a great audience for the most part. So, that's what this is. I don't consider this to be a 5-episode ad for tag. Obviously, I'm getting them some pretty good exposure. And I'm proud, and I thank my audience for being able to do that and for accepting it, those of you that are, and most of you are. But of course, there's going to be a few people who like to, throw out unfounded accusations. I also want to mention something, and Steve, I'm taking a moment now to do what you did at the beginning of the episode, which is clarify a few things. I hope you don't mind that I'm kind of following your lead there. I also want to call myself out. Earlier on in Sports Cards Live, I did an episode talking about AI grading. Of course, I didn't know what AI grading was, and I knew very little about it. But I had a guest on the show who had commissioned a study by a university in the U.S. or maybe in Canada. I don't remember what university it was, but a friend of mine who did this, and he had sort of concluded, and they concluded that like AI grading was impossible. There was no way to capture the different angles of the card. And I said, okay, I guess that's what I know. That's what I've been exposed to. I'm no expert, so I accepted it as truth. But one thing that I'm just sort of, the way I live my life is I'm always open to learning more. And if I'm presented with information that I think is important, that makes sense, and can prove wrong a previous theory that I adhered to, I'm going to take the new theory or the new perspective and make it my new perspective. So at one point, about 2 years ago or so, I thought this was impossible. But then I was invited to the facility. I saw the technology. I saw how they solved for foreign particles. I saw how they solved for cards that bow. That's an amazing thing. You guys are going to see this stuff next Saturday. And I was so impressed with what they have done and so depressed by what the hobby had been, what we were offered in the hobby up until tag, that I wanted to do this. I want to do this because I think that it is important for the hobby to see what is possible and that we don't need to just accept what is fed to us. So a couple of things there I want to clarify. If anyone else wants to call me out for running a 5-episode ad for tag, please put a comment and I will simply ban you from my channel permanently. I have no problem doing that. If you don't like what I'm doing, that's totally fine. I don't need you in my audience. So, and for the person who said, which was JG, said, when will this tag ad be over? JG, you're free to leave. Actually, we're just going to get rid of you right now, and you are no longer able to comment on my channel. Okay, and Jahan, you're kind of riding the wave there yourself. So please tone that down. I'm not going to tolerate it, and that is my prerogative, as this is my content and my YouTube channel. Okay, with all of that said, lots of comments still coming in, and I want to address more of them. So I'm just going to start up with this one from Richard. It says, not every service is for everyone. You guys may collect only vintage. There's just as many collectors, if not more, that collect modern. Yeah, listen, I think that what I like about I like their honesty, I like their transparency, and I like the fact that they're not saying that they can do something or are going to do something that they're not yet set up to do. How can you not respect that? How can you not respect honesty and sticking to their lane? And if they are going to widen that lane, when they're able to, they will. And that'll be an amazing announcement for the hobby. So, like, if you don't like it, if you don't like that, I just don't think I could have a real conversation with you. Wiz Collectible says, these guys have not only thought of everything, they've perfected everything. Sign me up. Very nice comment right there. Let's see what else we have. Albert Jones says, the money is in volume. There's enough volume in modern. They don't need vintage. Yeah, and listen, like, that's not I think you're right about that comment, Albert. But as a collector, I want Tag to be able to do vintage, because I would want to give them my cards along with my vintage, my modern, my ultra modern. I would, but I like it more that they're not straying into a lane that they're not prepared to get into. Like, how can you, again, not respect that? Thanks for the comment, Albert Jones. Jay Wilson says, I'm calling you out for your passion, Jeremy. It's infectious. I love it. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. Dave says, if you don't like the show, don't watch it. And listen, I don't want to focus on all that stuff anymore. I want to get back to the good stuff that these guys are doing. Jordan Rivers says, I've got so many good cards back and they encapsulated lint or dust. It's so frustrating. That was great to hear you have a way to solve this problem. And is that right? Like, I actually think that when we were talking about that before, I was thinking about, will the system remove foreign substances in terms of capturing the data? That's one thing. Another thing is, will there ever be a foreign substance in the slab? Matt, can you just address that distinction for a moment, please?
Yeah, well, the ionizing pencil that I spoke to was more of removing the particulates from the slab and from the card before it's captured and then before it's slabbed, because we actually use it at various parts in the process. But as to the photometric stereoscopic imaging side of things, I mean, there's a difference between something that's sitting on the surface of a card versus, a pit that's an indent. And Greg can explain this better than me, but that's depth perception, something that we're, Greg, jump in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Again, it's all about a system of classification, right? Of observation, measurement, and classification. And I'd say tune in on the next episode to learn more about that system. But like it's been said before, we've considered a whole host of things, hundreds of things we haven't even talked about or have the time to talk about in terms of how to ensure accurate observation and grading. And I can tell you, the removal of lint and particulates long ago became no longer a concern, a solved problem.
Okay. Yeah, may I add, Jeremy, that if you try and do too much for anybody, you end up doing much less for everybody. So you have to be true to yourself. You have to know what you do, how you do it, and you have to be unwilling to accept compromise in how you get there. So opportunities can be great. And in life, all of us will, if we haven't already, have an opportunity to compromise what we know is right because of the appearance of great gain in the immediate future. And I don't believe that's the way to go through life on anything. So there's a lot of thought that goes into vintage cards or other parts of our business that have great expansion opportunity. We know who we are. We know who we want to be.
That's great to hear, Steve. And I'm going to come to some comments that speak to that momentarily here. Ultimate Pastime says, keep doing what you're doing and what you believe in. You've seen their, to me, you've seen their technology firsthand. It must be good. I mean, it blew me away. Ultimate Pastime, as I've expressed. Brian Adams says, I already love tag. Wayne says, keep the info coming. Thanks for what you do, Jeremy. Thank you, Wayne. I greatly appreciate that. Dave says, it's not about honesty, Jeremy. It's about understanding that no vintage means PSA continues to win. Dave, I think you're missing the point, almost not completely, but you're totally missing the point. In episode 1, I do believe that it was discussed that Tag is not in business to try and put PSA out of business. I think that's an impossible task. PSA's brand is in trend. It's incumbent in the hobby. Even though I don't love everything they do, I've got several cards in PSA slabs, and I'm happy to keep them there. That they're great cards. They're great cards, and PSA does a very good job as far as human grading can do. I mean, I don't know, Steve. Do you want to speak to this? And before you do, Steve, I like Richard's balancing things out. Says beating PSA isn't the end all be all. And Dave says, if you want reports to be robust and meaningful, then it is about beating PSA. I think you're just dead wrong, Dave. He says, otherwise you end up with a few true believers and some folks that like the slabs, i.e. a minor player. And Steve, I'm going to give you a moment to address all this, but I like that Richard's coming in, says they're concentrating on building a great grading service. The other stuff will come in time. Being obsessed with PSA gets them nowhere. Which Dave says you don't have to be obsessed to understand the playing field. With all that said, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I would like you to put this whole thing to bed if you can for us.
You're correct that our objective, as I said 2 weeks ago, PSA is not in our vision. Either is Beckett, either is SGC. We welcome their presence, and I acknowledged wholeheartedly their contribution to the industry. Our business model is not on the grading side of the business. It's providing services to the buy side, who's being asked to pay lofty prices to at least know what they're buying. But that said, I've had comments from people saying, you'll be here today and gone tomorrow. PSA is too large for you, and nobody's going to switch from PSA to you. So on the one hand, I say, we're not asking anybody to switch from PSA. But I just want everybody to know that I've received emails from people who are incredibly large submitters to PSA and other grading companies who have indicated to us their interest in doing business with us on a scale that may possibly be larger than we even want to do in the near term. So I think people who think the marketplace is a lot of small one-off submitters, I think they'll be surprised. That's all I'll say. I know they'll be surprised just by the facts that are in front of me today.
Well, there's a lot of people, Steve, who I just find, and doing this show now for 2 years, and I've had controversial guests on in the past, and I certainly do not consider Tag to be a controversial guest, but I've the hobby has its fair share of skeptics, and I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's people care, and they're passionate about the hobby, and they're passionate about their cards, their collections, just as I am. But I just want to encourage people to understand that you don't see the whole picture. You like Dave Boloton, a great example. You're only seeing things through your very narrow lens. And I don't say narrow as in to insult you. I say I have a narrow lens too. we all narrow because we're only one brain and one set of eyes as individuals walking this planet. So, collectively, and if you can expand your mind and try to walk in someone else's shoes and just look through a different lens, I think you can. Number one, I think you'll come across as just a more open-minded person, but I think it'll also help you become maybe a little happier in life if that's something that you would like to be able to do. Skeppy, go ahead, Steve, and then I'll move on.
One postscript to this. There's been a few people who commented that the amount of information in the detailed image and grading report, that they don't want it. So first of all, nobody that gets a card graded with tag that doesn't want to see that report has to look at it.
It's free.
It's free.
Yeah.
The fact that it's available to anybody that they might sell the card to, if those people feel the same way as a buyer that this person does as a seller, they're not going to look at it either. So no harm, no foul. What this person is saying is not only that they don't want to see that data, but they don't want the buyer to know whether that card has appropriately acknowledged all the defects. That's a person who's not saying credibly that the information has no value. What they're saying is the information is so valuable, I'm afraid if my buyer gets it. And so I would say that that's not credible. It's not good faith. If they're correct and it has no value, then the buyers won't want to see it either. So don't worry about it. We're not offering anything that will impact on you or your buyer. I just wanted to put that out there.
Appreciate that, Steve. Skeppy says, even when Jay Lee, that's me, even when Jay Lee gets angry, he's the best. I haven't seen him change color like that since he was struggling with the spicy Pringles. You've been with me a while, Skeppy. That's a long time ago already that I was eating Pringles during a late show one night. Jordan Rivers says tag should join direct with Fanatics. Hey, interesting comment. There's lots of things going on in the hobby right now. We have Eddie from Investicard in the audience. Eddie, good to see you. We are live, which is his famous catchphrase. Fact Sake says, if I crack your slab and resubmit the card, is it fair to say it will never get a higher grade, possibly lower due to handling it? Who wants to take a crack at that question?
I do. The answer is we haven't decided what the answer is, and it's very high on our list. We have the branding of tag and its capabilities to provide consistent grading. We have the unfortunate circumstance that somebody's victimized in the hobby and they buy a raw card that has been previously graded and they don't know it. We have the situation where the card comes in and gets regraded and gets a lower grade. We have the situation where the card comes in and gets regraded and gets a higher grade. There are a lot of variables. So the questions for us that we're currently going through is which of those scenarios ends up paying, which of those scenarios gets the card back without it being slabbed, which of those scenarios gets a slab card back, what grade do they get, the first grade or the revised grade? Can you only get the lowest grade between the multiple times that it's been graded to disincentive the market from trying to grade shop? All of those are on the table. We're aware of the issues and they will be addressed soon.
I think, okay, and I just want to take it one step further if I can, Steve. Can you just speak to, and I know from talking to you and when I was there in discussions that, one of the things that you're trying to solve for, that TAG is trying to solve for in the hobby is that, and it came up earlier tonight, people will keep on resubmitting the same card to a certain grading company until they get the grade that they want. And I think what FactSafe is really getting at with this question is, will somebody be able to send a card back to TAG over and over again until they finally get that elusive 975 or whatever the hobby ends up pegging as that elusive number?
Yeah, the only way they could get a subsequent or a resubmitted 975 is if the first time they submitted the card, it was at least a 971 or a 979. So our variances are small. To us, the issue is not being able to upgrade the card. We don't want to acknowledge that our system is not consistent. And secondly, we don't want to make money off the back of people taking the same card and paying 3, 4, 5 times to get it graded I mean, some companies love that resubmission revenue. I mean, it's a dream come true. We don't want to make that money. We want to grade it once, tell you that's the grade, and we want you to be happy with the grade. We'll give you all the transparency. So there's other ways to make money than get somebody out there to keep paying you to grade shop. It's just not our style.
Grade shop. I like that terminology for sure. For sure. How about this question from the card hobbyist? Says, we know not all launches are without some bumps. What does TAG see as the most important service metric to hit in their first year? Is it return time? Is it consistency? Is it transparency?
Boy, that's a tough question. We meet regularly, the management team. We have conversations every day with the developer. This is part of the conversation. What are the objectives, both from a system standpoint and from individual component standpoint? The answer that I give management is the number one challenge is execution. Execution. And I don't care if it takes X amount of time to do it. We have plenty of capacity. A lot of equipment, that's not our issue. We will get more efficient over time as far as speed goes. I also tell everybody that I'm virtually certain that we'll have 50 bumps in the road when we launch. And I say, if I had to make a bet and pick the number that I think is closest, I would say 100. And I want everybody on our team to know on day one, we're on high alert. We will learn something with every card that we grade and slab on day one. We're learning every day right now. We were here, or guys were here last night, this morning till 3:30 in the morning. We were slabbing some cards. I don't know if we want to put one up, but just for the purpose of showing you the cards today. And until the process is, until the switch is turned on for the entire process, I can't tell you what the most critical functions are. We're learning every day while we're doing this. That's part of the reveal. We're revealing some things to ourselves as well.
Okay, I'm going to go to another question here from Novus.
Greg, do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I think it's important. Just hearing you talk to it, I want to make sure it goes, that it's mentioned that we wouldn't have got here if we would not have already processed thousands and thousands and thousands of cards, right? So we're here nearing our launch point, right? Not, I just want to make sure nobody mischaracterizes Steve's comments as like, oh, okay, so you're just now finally getting cards through the system. No, cards have been going through the system by the thousands, right, for a long time, at various degrees of completion, right? So the final stages, of this production cycle are the tagging and the slabbing and shipping aspects, right? We had a pretty good handle at this point on all aspects of imaging, measurement, grading, grade output, slab printing, right? And it's now down to the slabbing of cards and scaling, right? All of these aspects. Like Steve mentioned, our big challenges, right, are not in solving for measurement and grading and how to scale hardware, right? It's how to scale the business.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Are we ready to move on, fellows?
Yeah, one thing, Jeremy, that I didn't get a chance to show, or that I want to show before we wrap, or I'm not sure what your game plan is, but the grading report, obviously, I think most people will be accessing when they scan the tag grade using their iPhone or whatever smartphone. So I just wanted to sort of give a little overview and show that the same thing that I showed earlier is all available on your mobile device, to be able to go in, say you're at a convention or something, you just scan the card, pick it up, and you can get all the data there at the tip of your fingers.
That's That presents really well. Thanks for showing that, Matthew.
The PA.
Okay, we're gonna move on. I want to go to Novus Vitus's comment here. He says, I got back an order from PSA with a number of cards not graded because it didn't meet the minimum size requirements, but all cards were pack pulled. Could this be a potential issue with tag cards? Greg, is that something that you want to take or not?
Sure. Right. So clearly a part of our solution is trim detection. Right. So, core measurement of the cards themselves have to be within a specific range and have the characteristics of a card that has been not trimmed. Right. So there is a pretty fine range, right, of cards that'll be accepted for grading that are below the standard size. There may be exceptions in cases where, and again, I can't give away too much, where the observable aspects of where trimming has occurred, right? If those indicators are not present, right, then there would be some consideration, I think, longer term as to whether or not those cards are rejected. But initially, right, there's a very finite range of gradable card size.
Okay, thank
Steve,
you for
any
that
comment?
response. And I hope that satisfies you, Novus Vitus. Foul Fireball says, I don't grade due to the inconsistencies of the grading companies. I like what Tag is selling. Eddie says, do you think we are getting too granular with all this grading tech? Is too much? Eddie, we talked about this about half an hour ago, exactly that comment. And, my thoughts are more information is better than less information. Right now, we get pretty much zero information. So, but I'd encourage you to rewind and find that part where we spoke to that specifically. Eric says,
Jeremy, could I add a comment?
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
If you go into a 100-story building and the place you're going to is on the 60th floor, don't go up to the 100th floor and then go down to 60. Just go to 60 and forget the other 40. So if you don't like all the data that's here on the card, don't use it. It's as simple as that. Just go to the data that you want. We make it all available free. So don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We'll give you the data. You don't want to use it, don't use it. Okay?
Yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, exactly that. And Eddie, you were probably here after we were looking at the digital image and grading report, but at the top is the summary data. That might be enough for you. And that's fine. Although, Eddie, you lend money against cards, so I would assume that you need to know as much as you can about the cards that you are lending against. So I would think you'd like this information, but that's another discussion. Eric says, since we cannot yet get this slab in our hands, what would be the nearest comparison that is already in our hands in terms of thickness, weight, and size? That's a great question, Eric. And I don't have one handy. I do. Do you have Matt? Can you just show your tag slab, please, again? And I can just mention that it's you can see there, and I've held it. It's very nice it feels great in your hand. It's about the same size as the other ones. I would say it's narrower, it's thinner than some companies, maybe a little thicker than others in terms of just the thickness of the slab. Matt, can you turn one on its side so we can see the thickness of the slab, please? Yeah, that way. Actually, so it looks like other manual grading companies in terms of thickness and height width. Anything you want to add, Matthew?
Yeah, I'd say they're actually running and trying to see if there's some other company slabs that we can hold up to show you a comparison. But we did. I think Mark mentioned on the last show, we did a study and we wanted to take a study group, a focus group, and we wanted to find what are the things people like best. And here, are we allowed to show other?
Yeah.
So you can see here's a PSA, Beckett, and who is this? CSG. Actually.
Yeah, put yours up against it and just hold them all in a brick and let's look at the width and put them all together if you can, Matt. Stack them and just hold them up. Can you stack them on top of each other, all four, and then show us the side view of that, like a hamburger almost?
Yeah.
Stack all four, please, with the tag on one end.
So
and make sure they're flat on the bottom, so they're all.
Yeah.
Yeah, level them out, hold that up sideways. And which one is the tag slab, please?
The clearest one.
Okay. Okay. And just there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if you can tell on the screen, but this one is a lot clearer than the others.
So it's a little shorter than two of them, and it seems the thickness, it seems to be about the second thinnest in depth. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Angle it a little bit more toward just there, stop right there, and come down a little bit, please. So tag is on the far left. It looks to be a little bit thicker than I think PSA is behind it. Maybe a little thinner than that Beckett slab. That's a third one. And then you have CSG on the far right, I believe. And it may be very similar to that one. They're all flat, and it's shorter than the PSA slab, a little bit taller than the Beckett slab, from what I can tell.
Yeah, let me show you this. They all it's pretty cool when they stack.
Oh, that's so that's a stackability of the tag slab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something that people really like. Okay, thanks, Matt. I'm gonna keep on going. Okay.
Sure.
Justin Vick says, I was worried about the concept of tech grading as far as magnification, but these guys have addressed my concerns via the NHODs, the non-human observable defects. And Justin, when I was preparing for this episode with them a night or two ago, and you know, it was mentioned and mentioned again today, that's what really sticks out to me as bridging that gap. So we're on the same page there. Noonan Cardboard says, if someone has a high-end card, they want it tagged, but they want it in a PSA holder because all their other cards are in PSA holders, would you tag the card and send it back raw? Steve, that's a question for you.
I'm not contemplating doing that, no.
Okay. Thank you for that. Skeppy says, are the cards, the tag grades, are they marked to know that you've seen it before? Do you mark the cards?
You mean physically mark the cards or digitally identify the card?
I think the simple answer, Skeppy, is that no, they do not add anything to the card. They do have the fingerprinting technology to be able to tell if they've seen it before. Greg, simple as that?
Yeah, you had the answer right. There's obviously, we would never make, apply any aspect. We wouldn't apply any changes to the card surface or anything like that. It's all done through kind of forensic observation.
Thank you. Richard says the main driving point of tag is consistency, something no other grader can truly offer. Studio says, you're based in the USA. How is grading from Canada going to unfold? Group submitters, etc. Any insight into how international grading will roll out, or do you want to save that for episode 5 when we talk about the future?
The only comment I'll make is that we want to be in that market. We're aware of the cross-border nature of the business. We have had discussions for well over a year with people in Canada. And matter of fact, just this week, received a contact from somebody who would like to talk to us about partnering or in some way being in quote tag Canada. So yeah, we'll be grading Canada. I don't think we'll do it in a way that will require Canadians to send their cards to those of us in LA.
Okay, thank you. Jay Wilson, how do you plan to scale the customer base? Advertising, social, big shows? I mean, starting with Sports Cards Live, maybe I'll little pat on the back to the audience and to all you guys for tuning in. But any marketing efforts that you want to discuss?
Yeah, actually, I think one thing that Steve mentioned briefly is a big part of our marketing effort currently is making sure that we don't let me say it this way, we don't want to take in more cards than we're able to grade in a way that we feel is reflective of our mission statement. So I think, the marketing efforts will come as soon as we're ready for third-party submissions. We have a big plan already written up for that. But, we want to do this in the right way, and we don't want to take more cards than, make sense. We want to scale properly.
Appreciate that. Okay. Tony says, is Mark Cuban involved in TAG? If this company was on Shark Tank, investors would be fighting over offers. I'd like to see that. Teapot.
He's not involved, but interestingly, we were speaking among ourselves just in this past week and thought that this was a very good venture for him. And if he's interested, he should contact us.
I'm sure he's watching right now and we'll reach out. Teapot says, really looking forward to next Saturday's episode to see how the magic works. Love the look of the slab and the forward thinking. And I'm not surprised to hear that is your attitude, Teapot, because you're just that kind of guy. Jay Wilson says, I feel smarter just listening to Greg speak about the tech. Yeah, I don't know if I feel smarter or stupider, Jay Wilson, but I hear what you're saying. Evan Thomas says, love the look of the slab and the energy. I can't wait to grade with TAG. What era of cards would you like to receive from customers? Ideally, I believe 2000 to 2022 is the answer to that. Yes?
Yes.
You're nodding. Good. Okay. PDX cards, amazing technology. Excited about trying out this grading service. And then Jay Wilson says, right now it is hard to beat the clarity of a CSG slab. Gareth Miller agrees. The crystal clear slabs are TAG slabs as clear as CSGs. Matt, how can you respond to that, please?
Well, I don't know if I can specifically say my opinion, but I can put them up next to each other.
So which is which, sorry?
The one that's blue is not ours.
And what can you explain why it's blue? Because to me it looks very clear, the blue one.
Yeah.
This, maybe it might be the camera, but when you see this in person, ours, it's hard to compete with the clarity of the material we're using.
And we can't speak to how anybody else does their slab. We can hold the two up and we can tell you that in our opinion, ours is clearer, smaller, taller, narrower, whatever. But how everybody does their slabs, that's up to them.
And I think it's good. I you know what? Listen, I'm on the I have the same sort of thoughts that Gareth here does and Jay Wilson in terms of I want a clear slab. And I can say that when I was at the facility, I saw all the slabs together, and I don't remember sort of thinking that the TAG slab was clearer than this. I wasn't looking close enough to see that. I would say, Gareth, when the time comes, and same with Jay Wilson, guys, when you can put them side by side, you'll make the decision which one is clearer to your eyesight, I suppose. There they are, just against each other. I mean, yeah, I love the transparent flip. The no paper flip is that's just that. I just really like that. Victor says, I love the NHOD acronym, the non-human observable defect. Fact sake says, okay, I've heard enough. Shut up and take my money. Skeppy clarifies, I didn't mean physically mark the card. Yeah, they do fingerprint the cards, Skeppy. They've mentioned that. Justin Vick would prefer to partner with Mr. Wonderful. Punt Pass Click says, have they mentioned the price to grade the card yet? As Richard says, no, they haven't. And that will be revealed, I do believe, on the final episode of this series, which will be on June the 25th. Gareth says, the tag flip looks fantastic. I like the way it lets the card be the center of attention. Right on, yeah. And I know, yeah, no doubt. And Daniel Busby says, personally, I find Steve genuine the way he's speaking about tag. I will be a customer. Do they grade jersey patch cards? So that's a great question. Do you guys on launch grade cards? And I know the answer because we talked about it in episode 2, actually, Daniel. So I guess I'll just say the answer is at launch, they're doing like the standard 35-point cards up to 55, which would be like an ultimate collection card, but nothing thicker yet. Steve, Matt, Greg, can you speak to if and when you will be grading thicker cards? I know there's going to be a demand for that.
Greg, do you want to do that? You want to postpone until next week? However,
no, it's your decision, right? It's all about where you want to, where the opportunity cost lies.
Mm-hmm. Let's leave that for next week, and when we're talking about the grading system. But just to not be too abrupt. We're not contemplating that right now. Not at the launch.
Not on launch. Okay. But it's something, Daniel, I can tell you that in just having discussions, I've said, I can't wait till you guys get there. And, I hope that they do. Thomas Peterson says, can you comment on TAG's patents and the claims in the patents, or is that more a part of episode 4 or 5, I suppose?
I really like that question. As a matter of fact, I made a note to myself here. I wanted to mention something. We have 4 existing patents, 134 patent claims. I think our first patent was filed in 2015. I think it was ultimately awarded in 2017, and we have 4 total. We recently filed a continuation patent and a new patent with a combined 75 new patent claims. We're in the process of adding to those claims now. I suspect there will be over 90. And the note that I made, why it had to do with patents, is because earlier you or someone had mentioned Fanatics. And I'm so impressed with Fanatics. I think that everything they do with an eye towards being the most prestigious, doing it the right way, having an integrated plan, being true to their plan. And you can read the plan. I mean, it's so apparent. So their recent entree into, or announced entree, it took a while to do it, I'm sure, into the college, high school, the non-professional athlete market, the NIL type of transfer portal, all of that. I think they have 100 plus schools, colleges involved. I love that. In fact, we had talked about that for a long time. Not in the same way that Fanatics is doing it, but we have patent claims pending that deal with those same variety of cards. And we have patent claims pending that deal with the aspect of how those cards get into the market. So my compliments to Fanatics. I think that they're doing a wonderful job in advancing their business strategy as I can see it.
Greg, anything you'd like to add regarding patents?
Yeah, thanks. We talked early on about how we connected, right? How Steve and his team and Deblock connected. One of the first things that we did is we did some discovery around Steve's patent portfolio, and I can tell you, as somebody who has authored many patents and been granted many patents, claims on many patents, that we were astounded at the coverage of both the breadth of coverage and the type of patent claims that had been granted, right? So we scored them kind of off the charts on patent strength. So
Wow.
I kind of look at what we've done here, and I don't see how you could possibly get around it from a patent perspective.
So let me ask a question then, Greg, because I think people are going to want to know, there have been other companies that have come out and claimed, I can think of 3 off the top of my head that claim to do whether the market says or they said AI grading or automated grading or computer grading. In your opinion, how do they fare? Like how do they fare against against the breadth of patents that you just mentioned that TAG holds and the related claims?
Yeah, it's not really a technology question, is it? It's a matter of how, when, and where you make decisions to litigate patents, right? There's so much out there in terms of redundancy and conflicting patent data and practices. So it's from kind of a third party perspective, Steve and TAG Gradings, they certainly have the portfolio of claims, right, to defend their technology if they sought to. But the truth of the matter in the tech world is you don't necessarily have to chase down everybody that claims to have done something that you've patented, right? It's a matter of understanding, where it provides important implications to your business or not.
Yeah, let me add to that, Greg, that we have had conversations with very prestigious patent litigation, patent infringement attorneys, and we're aware of what our rights are. We're aware of how to compute damages. We're aware of what rights we might lose if we don't do something. By the way, the answer to that is zero. There's not a statute of limitations that run on the patents other than the patent itself. And you're limited in how many years of recovery you can get from a company that violates the patent. It's expensive to litigate the patents. And so you certainly don't go out and litigate for patent infringement against somebody who, when you win, there haven't been very many damages. So of the companies that you've already referenced who allege to be doing something, I actually spent a couple days looking at YouTube, looking up some of the videos of those companies. I still can't find any image. I can hear the words, but I can't find any detail that shows what they're doing. I haven't seen defect identification, defect scoring. I haven't seen how they determine edge and corners and fray and surface edge wear and surface corner wear, how they measure the precision of the cards. So there's the location of defects and how they're identified. I haven't seen anybody who can identify a facial image even when it's wearing a catcher's mask or it's wearing a hockey mask. I haven't seen anybody that can differentiate the facial image on a card from the facial image in the crowd. We do all that. I've seen people who say that they've developed this AI grading system over the last 2 months. And I immediately step back and I say to myself, well, I don't need to do a lot of investigation on that. Okay. If there was such a character as Super Tech Man, he couldn't do this in 2 months. So we're on top of it. I'll just tell you that. And the people who think they're getting away with something or that we're not interested in what they do, they're wrong. They're on our radar. We've already identified, we've prioritized our top 3 poster children of who we want to use to make our statement. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of them was among if all 3 of them weren't among the 3 companies you're talking about. We know where we're going, and they'll hear from us at the appropriate time.
They're probably in the audience right now, to be right.
I don't ever intend to threaten anybody. All I'm saying is we have patents. I'm certain they predate any patent they have. In fact, I don't think they have any patents, but even if they do, we predate them. I think our patents are well done. I've had them looked at, and we do intend to always defend our patents against infringement.
Okay.
But only when the recovery is greater than the cost.
Okay. Let's leave it at that. We're gonna wrap this up right away, everybody, because we're over 2 hours. I didn't even realize. I just want to go to Wiz Collectibles comment. He says, I assume the standard for a particular set will be the same for the base cards as well as all the dozens of different color parallels. Greg, Matt, would one of you like to just address that comment, please?
Yeah, I think Matt, maybe you could help me understand what he means by standard, or Jeremy, the standard for a particular set.
I think he's talking about like where the centering would be. Maybe that's really all I can think of. Actually, Wiz, feel free to clarify, but I think the simple answer, this is going to be an obvious yes, but again, I don't know. It's something that I wasn't exposed to when I was there. Matt, is this something you can speak to?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what he means by standard, but maybe if he can clarify.
I think he's talking about the grading standards.
Yeah, I think yes. I assume
yeah, if it's specifically about how cards are graded, there is no set specific grading, right? Other than aspects that would relate to centering, right? You think about borderless cards or partially bordered cards, right? All of those scenarios have been addressed insofar as if there is commonality in a particular set, right? It could be purely, based on, how the cards are derived for centering, right? So if you think about Topps 2020 cards, they're not borderless, they have partial borders, right? And so in that way, there is, when you think about it abstractly, of course, there's a common centering evaluation to all cards in that set that would be different than all cards in a set that are borderless, right? Yeah.
But it's not differentiated because of the set. It's differentiated because of the information that's available in that set for making a centering determination. The same rules would apply to any set if they provided the same information for centering.
Here's a great way of putting it, I guess, Jeremy, which is the grading system does not care about what set the card is in, right?
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess my follow-up question to that would be, it doesn't care, but centering can be so challenging that it just assesses. Yeah, I think what you're saying, and correct me for putting words in your mouth if they're inaccurate, but the system doesn't care what set the card comes from. The system is going to assess the centering of each card based on that card's design. And if there are parallels that share a similar design, the system is going to be consistent in applying that standard to both parallels.
Nailed it.
Yep. Nailed it. Awesome. Okay.
And I think for purposes of acknowledging that we're probably not as gifted at doing this as many other people, we're doing the best we can. The companies that take 2 months to develop their technology, somehow they figured all this out. And I'll tell you, we spent more than 2 months just on that question. Just on that one question, centering borderless, markerless cards.
Yeah, well, it's something that requires attention. So
yeah,
glad that you did that.
So kudos to the people who do it so much faster.
Greg, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, right, if you think about, even the history that precedes DevBlock's involvement, right, this is a system that's been under development for 10 years, right? So this is a system which has been constructed based on years of experimentation, even long before we were involved, right, in the development of the system, and the planning and scoping and understanding what types of measurements were important, and the vision for the framework of how scoring occurs, right? Roll-up grades and roll-up grading of various measurements. All of that stuff had been thought out over the course of many, many years, right? DevBlock came in, right, more on the at the time where it's time for execution, right? So a lot of this, Steve and the team, very, very intelligent, right, about all aspects of what was important about the grading process. DevBlock was effectively there to kind of effectively implement the system that they envisioned.
Awesome. Okay, and Wiz Collectibles does confirm that I explained the question perfectly. Thank you, Wiz. I appreciate that. Okay, I want to go to this question from Robert Hudson. Are the slabs made in the USA?
Yes.
Nice. I think that's the answer that Robert's looking for. I think.
So is the mold from which the slabs are made.
Wow, even a step further. Okay, awesome. And then Jay says, anyone that invests in the sports card market needs their head examined. Jay, I don't like to tolerate insulting myself and our audience, so please keep your comments to yourself, because I take that as an insult that I need my head examined. So I'm not going to tell you that. Justin Vick says, I had my head examined. Doctors confirmed it was round. Okay, guys, thank you. Listen, I always find with whoever my guest is on the show, wrapping up always takes longer than I intended to. So I'm going to start off by thanking the chat, thanking the audience for all of your comments and questions, including the challenging ones. I think it's important that we flush these things out, and this is a great platform for TAG to be able to do that. I also want to offer to Steve, Matthew, and Greg any final comments, anything that you'd like to leave us with, and then when you're done that, we will go back to the chat. Final comments, and then I'm going to end the show. So I'll put it up to you, Steve and Matthew, first.
I just want to say, if you're viewing, you're a viewer now and you haven't checked out episode 2, We did go over in much more detail the processes in which we allow people to submit. We send out free submission kits with free supplies to really make it safe and secure. We also pay for shipping. So we think that it really makes it a painless process to send cards in. Another thing we went over were the slabs themselves in greater detail, including the materials we're using, the UV curing of the data onto the flip. We went over the security aspects, like on each card we have a proof authentication seal that you can scan with your iPhone and immediately authenticate the slab. So check that out in episode 2 if you haven't already.
I think we added 460 emails to our website, people who signed up. So we encourage everybody and welcome everybody to come to the website. We're adding content all the time. We're keeping everybody current on what's being discussed on these episodes and more information with respect to that. So check out the website, taggrading.com.
Greg?
Yeah, I would just, I share your excitement, Jeremy, about seeing this solution come to market, probably for, slightly different reasons, right? As somebody who has been solving endless numbers of challenges to get to where we are today, right? Seeing things like a slabbed card, right? I'm terrible in analogies, but you can just imagine a process that began 3 years ago, and now seeing a slab card that looks as fantastic as it does, and seeing the detailed grading report, right, as fantastic as it is, distilling, like I said, thousands of bits of information into a very digestible form. Again, hats off to the team, and really excited about seeing us take it into public.
All right, thanks guys. Go ahead, Steve, you're going to jump in.
I was going to say that to us, this is...
Hold it a little bit to your right, please.
All right, okay. That is like a parent looking at their baby for the first time. That's what that is.
That's beautiful.
Well, congratulations on the birth of your baby. Okay, I'm going to run through some final comments, guys. Hang tight, and then we're going to end this. David French says, I've watched about 60% of all these interviews, but I haven't heard the synopsis of what Tag does different than the rest. David, I just don't think I can help you. If you've been watching and you haven't picked that up, watch them again. Not much more I can do to help you with that. Eddie says, great info tonight, guys. Good luck on your new venture. Thank you, Eddie. Frank Schneider, love the slabs and impressed with the men behind them. Can't wait. Jay Wilson says, love the episodes. Great information. The breaking point will be the cost per card. Episode will make me smile or cry. I don't have much insight into that. I think you'll be smiling though, Jay Wilson. Justin Vick, great trilogy of episode. Can't wait for episode 4. Thank you, Justin. Todd McDonald, amazing technology. Love the look of the slabs. This is such a big step forward for the hobby. Troy is still here, says great episode. Jeremy and Tag people, thanks so much for the live stream. You are welcome. Skeppy will get into supply chain in episode 5. Vintage Card says some cool ideas, but like all new grading companies, I'll check back in 2 years before I consider using them. And that is definitely your prerogative, Vintage Collector. Dave says, great card report, looks nice and is great. A buyer can see what defects exist when looking at a card. Yeah, boom, exactly. And Steve Foley says, well done as always, Jeremy. Steven Group, you've set the bar high. Thank you. More thank yous from Fact Sakes, Brian Adams, and Daniel wants to know if I'm doing an after show. I am not. I am still recovering, so I am not doing another one at this point in time. Okay. That's it, everybody. I will be back tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, for Collectible Live with Tony Giese, Consignment Director from Heritage Auctions. I will be back again on Thursday with Jesse Craig and Adam Gray, both now of PWCC for the monthly. This will be the 12th in a row that we've covered the PWCC monthly auction. Can't wait. And then next Saturday will be episode 4 when we will be getting into the actual software and hardware that grades these cards, that Tag uses to grade their cards. Dell says, thanks for a great episode. Thank you, Dell. And Ryan Libby, how much can I buy that Tiger card off you for? What a beauty. And Lucky K appropriately ends it and says, good night all. All right, you three hang tight right there. Everybody else, thank you again for joining. See you tomorrow. See you next Thursday, and see you next Saturday for episode 4 of the Tag Reveal. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, Baz. I see your comment, and this one is over.